Now to get this project done here, you're going to need just a couple things. You're going to need a hammer. I have some 1.5 inch nails, roofing nails. I normally use 1.25 inches, but when you're hand nailing, 1.5 inches kind of gives you a little more room, so you're not so close to hitting your fingers. But you need a new pipe flange. You need a tube of caulking. You need a pry bar. I like these blue bars because they kind of have a nice little curve on the end of it, so it's a little easier to pull out the nails. And a nice pair of gloves, and you need some shingles that relatively match the size and style of what you have now. But let's get started. Okay, so getting started here. The most important thing is, well, um, kind of what we need to do is say, okay, what shingles do we need to start to take out here first? In this case, we want to take out this one shingle, which allows us to take the tire flange out. So, in order to take this shingle out, the shingle comes up one shingle higher. So we have to take the nails out the shingle above it. So with your flat bar, just gently try to unseal these shingles. You don't want to jam it in there too far. I mean, this is a real easygoing process or finesse type job here. This isn't something you just try to manhandle. The easier you take these shingles apart, the easier it'll be to put these shingles back together. All right, so you just want to gently pry this shingle up here. Just little, just little downward pressure on it, and they should relatively come apart pretty decent. Now we want to take the shingle up, so you want to see where the seams are. So I have a seam here. So what we want to do is just take this shingle out. All right. Now we start pulling these nails up. Oh, we got to unseal. We unseal the top one. Now we got to unseal this other one here. See how just downward pressure, these shingles are coming up just pretty easy. So now just slightly lift this shingle up, and just you want to look for the nails and just pop that nail up. So you got the nail, came up relatively easy. Sorry if my face is in the camera here. All right, some nails are going to come up a little easier than others. Turn the camera just a little bit more. Okay. A few nails are just a little tough, so as best you can, you just want to pop them up without trying to rip the shingle. So you can lift them up a little bit. Okay, got a couple more. Okay. Now we're going to go and try to take this shingle out. We might have a couple more nails to find. Okay, so we had to unseal this shingle to get the nails out. We had to unseal this shingle to get more nails out. And then you got to unseal this. So right now we have unsealed 3 shingles. We're working on the third shingle here. And once you get this first shingle out, it'll be a little easier to take these shingles out. So this one ripped just a little bit. There we go. So overall, you might have some shingles that rip, some shingles that tear. It's just the way it is when you're taking these old shingles up. You just get to rip some. So, all right, let's see if this shingle. See, look at how easy that shingle came up. Really nice and easy, and that's what you want. Now we want to take down this flange, so it's, you can see now the nails are exposed. All we got to almost do is just unseal the shingles and kind of pull them up. All right. So again, so the next shingle, the seam is here, but the seam is, where is that seam? It's gonna be somewhere around here, or somewhere on this side. I just don't necessarily see it. Once you kind of unseal them, eventually they'll pop up. So the seam is right here. So pop the nails up where you can. This shingle is coming up relatively easy. So not all the nails are coming out as easy. Okay. So now we know we're a little bit in good shape because we see the top of the flange. So we know that we went up high enough. We took the proper shingle off. All right. So we're on the second shingle we took off. Again, here's the seam here, and here's the seam. So we're gonna pop the nails off to take the shingle off. Now right here, as you see, getting this shingle started or to separate is a little tough. So you just want to be gentle with this. Just slide that pry bar in there. There you go. You see how it kind of broke loose? But there, the shingle has a tendency to crack or to rip. And the same thing here. You kind of see where when I pull the shingle up, the shingle underneath of it wants to come up. So we don't want to just rip that. You want to still just kind of be gentle and just slowly, see how it just kind of broke free? Because when you start ripping the shingles, if we rip this shingle, then we would have to replace this shingle. We just don't want to do that. So now here's your flange, and this is where your leak is. So a lot of times when you nail at the bottom and you nail a little high, you get a little bow here. And what happens is that water flows around, and you see all this dirt here that we had a super heavy rain, and that water just comes by runs right off the side of the pipe and right, right, pretty much right under it. So now we would take this flange off. It should come off relatively easy. Okay. And all the nails are up. Now you don't want to just tug on this. You want to just slowly, little twist and turn and pull up. This pipe could be PVC, and sometimes that PVC is not connected very well inside the attic. So just take it off nice and easy. All right. Now, since this shingle has the nails from the flange, we want to take this one off. We're going to take this one off as well. All right, so a little tricky getting started, but we just want to be a little gentle. So see how it just kind of broke free? From there, just kind of stick it into the side and nice little. Now here it ripped, okay, not a big deal, but we want to just get it started again and just slowly work at it. You maybe lift it up a little bit and maybe just a little. And you can lift it up and you can see if you're tearing these, but right now it's starting to separate pretty nicely. Just take your time on it, because if you rush it, you'll have, sometimes you might, if you rip other shingles, then you just have, you're creating more work. All right, so okay. All right, so here we have it. We have all the shingles off. Now the one thing you want to do is you just see some of these nails I didn't get all the nails out. So you just want to go through, hit all these nails down, lift up your shingles. This one we need to unseal a little bit. A little more. Lift them up, look for nails, underneath here. And if they're not laying flat, just tap them down. Because when you do this now, you see that when we put those shingles back in, they'll go in really, really nice. Okay, so all the shingles are up. Okay, right now all the paper and everything looks pretty good. Sometimes if you get a little bit of shingle material underneath here, you can just use your pry bar, pop it out, and hit it down. Like that one has a little bit. Get all that shingle out behind it, and when you hit them down, they'll lay down nice and flat. So in this case, there wasn't a lot of wood damage, nothing like that, so we don't have to replace that. So, but let's get our shingles. All right. Okay, so we got our first shingles. Now the first thing we do is you make sure the shingle is in place. Let me grab my knife. All right. First thing we do is make sure we get the shingle in place. So here, right, we line it up right to the edge. But now we have to cut around this pipe. So what you do is just mark the outside. Just It doesn't have to be perfect. You actually don't want it super tight. So you mark the two edges, and then you just line the bottom edge where it should go, just to the bottom edge of this pipe. And we have hook blades, so we just turn the blade around, make a little mark, and then we just kind of eyeball it. You can cut a square, you can cut a circle. It's not going to be that big of a deal. So here, when I try to put the shingle in, there is something that's kind of just jamming it up a little bit. And it just happens to be that just a nail sticking up just a little bit. But you just lift it up and get it past it. So now our first shingle's in. We want to nail it down. So you get your hand nails. The first thing you can probably put one in the middle. So I got a handful, so I just put a couple in there. Couple in the middle, one on the edge. And you can see here, this one, the nails kind of has blown through a little bit. So I'll just put a nail on this edge here. And don't forget to nail the other side. Same thing. The old shingle, the nail was kind of blown through, so I just put one there. Now normally this roof is a little old, so I might just put 4 nails in, but it doesn't necessarily hurt to add another nail in. If the roof was a lot newer, maybe I'll put 5 or 6 nails into it. But since it's pretty old, we won't. 4 nails is pretty decent. Now, what we have here is probably a 2-inch pipe. It's either a 2-inch. So this pipe flange, you could either be 1.5 inches, 2 inches, or 3. I didn't bring my tape measure up, so we'll just, they have these little rings on these pipes, so we'll just use our hook blade and just hook right where that ring is. And you see, you just grab it and pull it. All right, and we'll just see if this one fits. More than likely it will. There you go. So, when you're putting this on, you don't want to, again, you don't want to rough this up. Just nice and easy, slide it in place. Now the key here is you always want the bottom of the flange to go over this shingle. If for some reason this flange was up here, you would know that you would need to add one more shingle. But since the flange covers the bottom of the shingle, then we're okay to nail that. So we'll do 3 nails in the front, a little off the edge, 1 in the center, and then 1 just a little off the other edge. Now we'll put 1 in the middle. Now since we had a little bit of bowing up here, we will just add another nail a little lower. And then the top, we'll put a couple nails in there. Okay, and there we have it. We are going to add some sealant around the edge here, just to make sure it's sealed. But before we seal that, we want to have this shingle that goes around the edge cut, so when we caulk it, we don't have to try to cut it and then you get caulk all over the place. So what you're going to do, like before you put the shingle on the bottom and you mark the pipe, now we're going to put the shingle on top and we're going to mark these edges. So just a little cut at the bottom on each side. Now, doesn't have to be super tight. We just don't want it super wide. And we can always trim it a little bit when we have it in place. And then what we're going to do here from now, it's the same thing we did on the other side, is we need to get the height the back part. So you turn your knife around, find out where the back is, and just make a mark. Okay? You see I just got a little scratch here. So what I'll do is I'll find the center part. Here's my 2 lines. I'll find where the center is, and I'll start right at the top. So I'll just kind of eyeball where that line is and just do a little half moon. Now be careful when you're cutting the shingle. You don't want to cut the shingle underneath. So same thing, another half moon to this side. Just kind of ballpark it. We can always trim it. If this is off a little bit or cut, we can always trim it back when we put it back in place. So now we want to put it in place. As you see, like all these shingles go back really, really nice. Okay, so right now I think we look pretty good around the edges. We're probably a little high here, but I think we'll be in good shape. But if for some reason, if your cut, see if I can do this. If your cut was a little, say it went up here, as you can see, it's kind of bending up. You can just come by and just make a little trim on this. But the one thing with these is it is a little space from the edge is good. Letting that water pass is helpful. When it's too tight, sometimes that water has nowhere to go and it backs up. Okay, so now that we have this shingle in place, we got our caulk gun. Now I recommend just using Home Depot or Lowe's. You know, I would just go to a roofing supply place and find something that they recommend. But all we're going to do is just put a little line of sealant all the way around this edge. That way, it just helps to seal around that flange. Now normally you could use maybe some ice and water shield to put around that to seal the edges. This time I just have some caulking. So now we're going to put our shingle back in place. Takes a little work since we kind of cut out half the center. Just get it in place. Now for some reason, like I know I have the right kind of shingle, but for some reason if your shingle's a little long, you can just cut the edges of that to cut it to fit. Sometimes there's some shingles that aren't made anymore. But now again, I'm gonna start with the edge here. You know, I'm gonna probably put one more nail kind of somewhat into that flange. Same on the other side. And then I'm gonna nail the edge here. Now you always want to make sure on the old shingle, see how it's loose? Put a nail on that one as well. So after the repair, you don't want anything to blow off. Now, if you wanted, if you wanted more nails, say 5 or 6, you can just put a few extras. One thing you want to do is you probably don't want to put a nail. This one's probably a little close, but you don't want to have a nail within a couple inches of the seams. All right, let's put one more nail on this one since it's blown through. All right, now we're ready for the next one. Let's grab the shingle. Now same thing here. We got one more cut around this flange. So we'll do the same thing. We have our edges here. We'll make just a little slice. And then we bring it right to where it needs to be. Line it up with the bottom of your shingle. At the back, just make a little line. Nothing too crazy. And the same thing again. Find your center point. Find your mark. and just do a half moon here. Okay. So you see you got your half moon. Now again, just to be safe, you can grab an old shingle. You can grab a shingle, or it's a new one or old one, and then you can kind of, just cut the shingle right under it. That way you don't have to worry about cutting the shingle underneath. And then here, we'll put it in place. You see how easy these shingles get in place? Now, this one's a little tighter. Here, a little hard to see, but I'm a little tight. So I'm just gonna grab it and I'm just gonna trim. See, all I did was I just trimmed this little piece. All right. All right, so here we go again. Grab a couple nails. Again, I like using the 1.5-inch size nail because you just have a little more room to grab and you got a little height on the nail. So I tend to not hit my hand as much. So you got one on the edge, two in the center, and then we lift this shingle up and make sure we get them on the edge. Again, the old one, the shingle is, well, we took that nail up, so. All right, so the flange is relatively done. Now we just got to put our last shingle up. Grab a couple nails here. As you see, like this whole process, every shingle went back in place really well. We didn't have to struggle. We didn't necessarily have to fight. This, repair overall is just a nice, easy process. I'll say it's gonna be 90 degrees in Oklahoma today, but it's a little warm, but no biggie. So we got a little issue here. So we got a little issue here where we put the shingle on. Now what happens is the shingle's just a little long for some reason. Not a huge deal. Sometimes it just works that way. But make sure we clean all the debris out. Now it's just a little long, and all we're gonna do is just pretty much just trim this double part of the shingle and just trim this line down a little bit. So what we have, the top part's a little high, that can overlap. But now this double thick part, we just cut it right to the edge and everything sits relatively well. So if that happens, just trim it. Again, we're going to put a couple nails on these edges. We're going to nail the shingle. All right, so we nailed the edge down here. Now we just got to move over. And see, you can lift the shingle up pretty good. You don't want to beat it up too good, but you can just see how loose the shingle is. So we can just put our hand in here, nail it down. So I might be in the camera here a little bit. Make sure you nail down the edges, maybe 2-3 nails in the center. Then now all these shingles are in place. So now all you have to do is nail down this last old shingle where we had to get the nails up. So again, the shingles are still a little loose. It's warm. If it's a little cooler where you live, then they might not be as flexible. There you go. Couple nails on this edges. Now on this shingle here, the edge is going to be a little loose. But when you get into the center, it's going to tighten up a little bit. So just bend it how you can. Put your hand in there. Okay, and this one's a little tough. Just try to be as gentle as possible. But here we have it. We've replaced our pipe jack. It looks really well. Now just a little final thing here is we got our caulk gun. Sometimes when you separate these shingles, they don't want to reseal. So all we're going to do is put a little dab of caulk. Now what I like to do is where I've re-nailed this shingle, and sometimes we took the old nail and there's like a little bit of a hole, and just put a little bit of sealant in there, cover the hole, cover that nail a little bit, put a little bit on the edge of the shingle. Same thing here, just put a little caulk around these nail heads, maybe where the old hole was. And got just a couple little dabs and just pat it down. Now if it's warm, it should sit down pretty well. If it's 40 degrees or so, much cooler, they're not going to lay down as well as we would like to. Same thing, just lift it up, just a little dab of caulking. Just a little dab over there. There we go. And then what we could do is where the new and old meet, same thing, where they're a little loose. Little dab of caulking where the nail is, a little bit over the nail. Now a few notes. And see they got this little tab. You can put a little caulk in there. Now this shingle, we took the nail out. This shingle, we probably broke the seal here, but on the new shingle, the tar strip's on the bottom. So there's no tar strip right here. And the tar strip underneath the shingle is kind of pretty much broken. So put a little bit of caulk there. But now where the shingles are together, they're already sealing. So all we want to maybe do is check the edges. Any shingle that we didn't, or we might have roughed up a little bit, just go through and like this one's, this one's trying to stick to the old shingle and isn't doing very well. Just a little dab of caulk. Might be just enough just to hold it in place. But just feel around here, see a little loose, a little bit of caulking. The caulking sometimes doesn't hold all that well around here, but better than nothing. Where you see holes, there's a little bit of caulking. There we go. And then we got one little nail here. Caulk that. And there you have it. Replace the pipe jack. Thanks for tuning in.